Take a good look at this man. He is the person police are looking to get information from in the murder of two teenage girls in Delphi. Right now, police are not saying he's a suspect or even a person of interest, but they do want to talk with him.
They say he was on the same trail around the same time as Libby German and Abby Williams. Police are hoping this man has any information that could lead to an arrest.
Not calling him a person of interest, but someone police want to talk to because he was on the same trail as the murdered teenagers at about the same time. Police not only want to find out who this man is and whether he was seen near the girls Monday afternoon. Police also want to talk to anybody who parked in the High Bridge Trailhead parking lot between 1 and 5 p.m. Monday. It's critical they call police.
Police have identified this man as someone they want to speak with. They're not labeling him a suspect or a person of interest, but someone they believe may have been on the trail around the time those girls were murdered and disappeared before that. Now, police right now are saying that they want to speak with that man. They are desperate to find him.
Police are looking for this man. At this point, they're not calling him a suspect. They just want to talk to him about what he might have seen. He was walking in the area around the time Liberty German and Abigail Williams went missing Monday.
State police believe he is the only person they haven't identified who was in the area Monday afternoon when the girls disappeared.
We want to know what he saw, what he might have seen on the trail. Did he see somebody else that maybe some of the others didn't see?
And these are the just released surveillance photos of a man police are looking for, seen on that same trail around the time Abigail and Liberty vanished.
This man was on the same trail around the same time as the 13-year-olds before they went missing. Police say he isn't a suspect, but someone they want to talk to hopefully get more information about what happened to Libby and Abby.
We also learned more about why police want to talk specifically to one man who was in the same area as these girls roughly about the time they disappeared. Investigators say they've identified almost everyone in the area when the girls disappeared except this man, photographed on the same bridge the girls visited.
Just basically want to talk to him just to see what information he's got for us.
James Lucas says police also asked to speak with him.
It was scary. I never expected it.
So if you can group up like...
Lucas says he was one of the hundreds of searchers. Police asked him a few questions, checked his phone, then let him go. Police told me that they believe they are very confident they can solve this case.
So if you were out there the day the girls disappeared, if you know who the man in the image that they've released is, anything you might know that could help solve the case, please call the number.
They say he was on the trail around the same time the girls were last seen, and they're hoping he may have seen something. If you know who he is, you're asked to call the local authorities.
We've been able to identify almost everybody else that's been on that trail, and this gentleman has not been identified, and we want to know what he saw, what he might have seen on the trail. Did he see somebody else that maybe some of the others didn't see?
Police want to talk to the man because he was on the trail about the same time as the victims.
I think they feel confident that we're going to get this guy or guys that were involved in this, and I think they're feeling confident that it's going to happen sooner than later.
Now here's another look at the man police are so desperate to talk to. Again, they have not said he's a suspect or a person of interest. Instead, investigators believe that he is the only person they haven't identified who was in the area at that time. Now, if you were in the area that day or you know anything that could help solve this case, police do want to hear from you. They've set up a new tip line for information about the murders of Libby and Abby. All tips should be called into that number.
If you were in that area that day or you know anything about this case, police still want to hear from you. There is actually a new tip line you can call if you know anything that could help in this murder investigation.
Police have released a photo of a man who was walking there around that same time. He's not being named as a suspect, but police want to track him down to talk to him about what he might have seen.
Police are also working to identify a person in a picture they released earlier this week. That individual was near the area the two teens were last seen Monday.
We're getting subjects that we're looking at to talk to, and we're finding those people are not the person of interest that we're looking for, or that person in the picture. And so that is helping eliminate people, and that's part of the investigation, is to try to narrow it down to one or two people that we're looking at. And so right now we haven't got that far yet.
So that person in the picture we have seen time and time again, it is one of, if not the only person, police say, who has been in that area at the time the girls were there Monday afternoon that they haven't been able to account for. So the search continues.
They're still looking for this man who was photographed on the trail near where the girls died, about the time they sent their last social media post.
And for the third day in a row, investigators have been unable to identify or locate that man in a fuzzy picture taken from that bridge. The most promising clue appears to be a photograph taken from the Monon High Bridge. It is the last place the girls were seen alive. Police say this man was also there. 3 days of detective work haven't brought detectives any closer to finding and questioning him.
We're trying to make sure we can get him identified so we at least talk to him to see what he saw, what he knows, what information we can get from him, and that may be the key to unlocking this crime.
We're still looking for the man who was seen on the trail around the same time as the girl.
Anne Marie, it's 6 o'clock on a Friday night, and there's hardly a parking space outside the police station. Investigators are working late, pushing their case, trying to get that clue that connects them with a killer who has now eluded them for more than 3 days.
We've been getting quite a few tips. People have been calling in with information.
But no credible information yet on this man, photographed on that bridge about the same time the girls were there. Detectives want to talk with him.
We're trying to make sure we can get him identified so we at least talk to him to see what he saw, what he knows, what information we can get from him, and that may be the key to unlocking this crime.
Chastity was not on the trail Monday, but her friends were, and they told about a man they saw.
Yeah, they said that they had said hi and he just brushed them off and kept going.
Did they think he was strange, out of place, or?
They said he was, but then again, it could just be a rumor.
They described him dressed in black. Meanwhile, police continue the search for this man. He would have been on the trail the same time as the girls. They say they want to talk to him about what he saw.
And those is what we call hunting pants. It's like something somebody that's into bird hunting or duck hunting would wear. And those was popular back in the 90s.
She and her fiancé among the hundreds who have tipped police.
And I told the detective, he said that it looked awfully like the guy he used to work with. And he said back then he knew that guy had a house down in this area.
While the search continues for that suspect or suspects, while also the search continues for that man we've identified in pictures all this week here on Sunrise on WTHR.com. Police are still saying they desperately want to talk to this man, still not identifying him as a suspect, but again, someone that police want to speak with.
Well, those girls disappeared Monday afternoon. They were on a hiking trip, and police found their bodies the next day. They released pictures of that man Matt just mentioned who would have been on the trail at the same time as the girls. They want to talk to him, but they haven't yet found him.
In the cell phones, we're checking your social media places. We're looking at every possible option.
Search teams scouring the majestic trails where the girls were dropped off to go hiking Monday around 1 p.m. Just after 2 p.m., Liberty Snapchats this photo of Abby walking across a bridge. At 3 p.m., the girls were scheduled to be picked up but never returned. Their bodies found Tuesday in rough wooded terrain less than a mile away. Investigators want to speak to the man in this photo, believed to have been in the area at the same time as the girls. Police saying he may be a witness. This morning, only calling him a person of interest.
We have no suspects at this point in time, and we need information.
Investigators want to talk to this man, seen in the area at the same time as the girls.
We have no suspects at this point in time, and we need information.
Even though this is a holiday weekend, investigators are working around the clock to try to find the person who killed the girls. Police, though, hope this man may have some answers about what happened to the girls. They just want to talk to him. He was in the same area where Libby and Abby disappeared on Monday. If you know who he is or you have any information that might be able to help the case, police want to hear from you.
No one has been arrested so far, but police are hoping one of those tips will lead them to this man in the photo here, who was spotted near the area where Abby and Libby were last seen. They're hoping he might have some information that could help with the investigation. Police are encouraging anyone with tips, no matter how small, to call them in.
A major new development in the search for their killer. Police now have a suspect. Now, you've seen this photo before, but we want to take a close look at it once again. This man was in the same area where the teens were last seen alive. Investigators now say they've gathered enough evidence to believe he participated in the murders.
If you have any information, no matter how small you think it may be, police would love for you to call the Delphi murder tip line.
The latest in the homicide investigation was released Sunday afternoon. Indiana State Police say the man you see here is the main suspect in this tragedy. Investigators are urging the public to contact police with tips. If you know anything about the man seen in that photo, You can call the numbers listed.
This really has been an around-the-clock investigation. Detectives have been here all weekend long. In fact, you can see behind us police cars from all different departments around the state, including Delphi and state troopers here. They are not letting up on this investigation anytime soon. But there is the picture we've been showing you for days. It wasn't, though, until this weekend that police finally started calling this man a suspect. Because of this new development, we want to keep showing you this picture. So if something jogs your memory, maybe you've seen him somewhere, you can call police. This is a picture of him on the Delphi historic trails around the same time the girls were last seen there about a week ago. Now, while police have been circulating the picture for days, at first they said they only wanted to talk to this man, but this morning they believe he played a role in the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. It has the folks who live here in Delphi hopeful that more developments will come soon.
Investigators in Delphi are asking for your help identifying the man they now say is the suspect in the double homicide of 2 teen girls 1 week ago.
These 2 grainy photos with a man dressed in jeans and a blue jacket are all police have to go on. They don't have a name or any information on this man. Police want people to realize that they are not just looking here in Delphi.
We are actually expanding out. We want people that they may have seen somebody walking, that may have picked up a hitchhiker, that have seen a hitchhiker around that afternoon of Monday the 13th.
If you can identify the man in this photo or provide any information at all regarding this case, call the Delphi Murder Tip Line.
If this man is from the Delphi area, many believe police would already know who he is.
We're trying to get people that were driving down the Hoosier Heartland, that were on the interstate, that were in Logansport, that might have saw somebody walking, hitchhiking, if they saw a duffel bag laying somewhere, anything. Right now we're just reaching out for people that have saw anything within that distance.
1 week after the murders of 2 Delphi teenagers, and police are asking for tips to lead them to the person who killed Libby German and Abby Williams.
Says police continue to go through dozens of tips to find one man.
Specifically, what was he up to? What was going on that makes him a suspect?
Well, I can't go into that right now.
Naming him a suspect increased the number of tips for detectives to investigate. The Homicide Command Center is now getting as many as a dozen calls an hour.
People thinking this is a suspect and not just somebody we want to talk to. So maybe, like I said, if somebody saw something that they thought at first wasn't important, maybe they'll give us a call and let us know.
Some believe that if this man was from Delphi, police would already know who he is.
The man police consider a suspect in their murders is still out there.
And the calls for justice growing as tips continue to flood in. In fact, hundreds of tips, and police say they are investigating every last one of them.
The headquarters for this double murder investigation has been busy since day one. It's even busier since police announced they have a suspect that needs a name. All day, local, state, and federal investigators were coming and going from the command center. Phoned-in tips increased since police announced this man is now a murder suspect. They'd already spent days publicizing his photo, trying to identify and question him.
Now that it's changed from just somebody they want to talk to a suspect, we're hoping that it'll kind of ring a bell in their head, saying, maybe I need to call, maybe I need to notify a police officer.
Investigators won't say what they found to make them believe the unidentified man participated in the killings of Libby German and Abby Williams. They disappeared while hiking a popular trail a few miles outside of Delphi. The secluded area is right off the Hoosier Heartland Highway, increasing the possibility the killer or killers lived out of town. Delphi is small enough that some believe if this man lived nearby, someone would have already recognized him. Police want to talk to anyone who may have seen a hitchhiker near or on the highway. Maybe somebody walking, maybe somebody parked in a car near that trail. They're hoping that tip can help them put a name to a suspected killer.
When I say we want tips, this person could have hitchhiked in. If somebody picked up a hitchhiker that day, if somebody saw somebody walking on the roadway. We're not just focusing on what people saw on the trail.
And if they saw something, maybe it was on the road to Lafayette or Logansport. Police are widening the geographic search.
We're focusing on anybody that saw anyone that didn't seem to be should have been at that place at that time.
Now, this investigation started exactly 1 week ago when Libby and Abby disappeared during an afternoon hiking trip. Searchers found their bodies on Tuesday, nearly 24 hours later. And on Wednesday, we got our first glimpse at the still unidentified man photographed on the trails around the time the girls were here. But it wasn't until yesterday, the same day the teenagers were laid to rest, that police officially called him a suspected killer. Now here's another look at that man the police are so desperate to find tonight. They say evidence has led them to believe he is the person who murdered those two girls. Take a good look. And if you know anything that could help investigators identify him or track him down, they want to hear from you. You can call the tip line that you see on your screen right now, 844-459-5786, with any information about the case. Even something small that you think might be insignificant, go ahead and give them a call.
Ben and Julia, police cars, you can see right behind me, have been a constant in so many neighborhoods all around Delphi as police are desperate to identify and find that man in the picture, now called a suspect. It has been nearly a week since the development of that picture came, and then Sunday when word came that that man is now a suspect. Here is a look again at this picture. You can tell it is a bit grainy. Police are now expanding their search area outside of Delphi into surrounding communities as well, even curious if he may have hitchhiked into the area and if someone may have picked up a hitchhiker that day. Police are desperate to hear from anyone in this case to help break it open. They say that since they've now called that man a suspect, they have received even more tips to their tip line, but not enough to find this man.
We've obviously eliminated some suspects, and we have new people through the tip line that we have identified as folks we want to talk to.
And back here at home tonight at 5 o'clock, police are now crossing off some leads now, and they're ready to look into some new ones as they work to solve the murders of two Delphi girls.
It comes as police promise new details in the investigation that they plan to release tomorrow.
John, here we are, a full week since this murder investigation began. I'm told by police that there has been no change in the work and intensity of this murder investigation. There is understandably, however, I'm told, some disappointment among detectives that they have yet to catch up with the man they believe killed two teenagers.
We're going to keep working those tip lines. We're going to keep knocking on doors and following any lead that we can get, and hopefully, again, like I said, get the murderer of Liberty German and Abigail Williams into custody.
In the 7 days since searchers found the teenagers murdered in a secluded wooded area along Deer Creek, police say they've interviewed scores of people and eliminated dozens of potential suspects.
We have tips coming in hourly, if not by the minute, where we're able to send out teams of investigators to follow up on those leads.
But detectives can't find this man, who they believe participated in the girls' murders. The grainy photo was taken on the popular Monon High Bridge, about the same time the girls were there and never seen again. Police say the photo has already been enhanced. Their description, no better than a white male in blue jeans and a blue jacket.
We're not able to provide you with a height or weight. The picture speaks for itself.
First, let's consider what we don't know in this case. Off the top, that includes the manner of death. How did Libby and Abby die? That is something police still have not released. We also don't know the identity of the person in the suspect, in that picture, and we also don't know where that picture has come from. We do know that police have been working around the clock trying to identify that person, receiving several phone calls, in fact, up to a dozen phone calls an hour to that tip line while trying to identify that man. We know they've crossed several possibilities off of that list, but have still not been able to positively identify him.
We are just getting started. Abby and Libby deserve us. They deserve every single one of us, and not just the people standing up here on the stage that have given so much of their lives to not just this, but to this profession, but each and every one of you. Each and every person listening, watching, or seeing this in some form, we need you. Libby and Abby need you. Please do not rationalize tips away. Rationalize what you think that might not be important away.
The FBI plays an important support role in this investigation, this joint investigation. I'm very humbled by the response that the resources that are under my direction have brought, and hopefully the contributions that we are making. On any given day, we have 20 FBI agents that are here providing investigative help, whether that's running down leads, conducting interviews, helping with lead tracking system, providing intelligence analysis support. providing technical assistance. Every night I update our FBI headquarters to our Deputy Assistant Director, and as the Superintendent mentioned, this has been briefed to the FBI Director on 2 occasions. So whatever resource that the FBI has available, whether it's here in the state of Indiana or nationally, we have brought those resources, and we will continue to do so. We were committed to working around the clock, as we have been over the last 9 days, and will continue to do so until this case is solved. To the members of the community, when I met with our behavioral analysis unit and in their expertise and their experience, it is oftentimes even unwitting that a member of the community may have information that is germane to this investigation. And I'd like the community to go back 9 days and go back to the afternoon of February 13th, Monday, February 13th, and just think if you had an interaction with an individual who inexplicably canceled an appointment that you had had together, or an individual called into work sick and canceled an important appointment or a social engagement, and at the time gave what would have been a plausible explanation. My cell phone broke, or I had a flat tire on my car. But in retrospect, that excuse no longer holds water. That may be important. Likely so are behavioral indicators that this individual may have exhibited since the afternoon of May 13th. Did this individual travel unexpectedly? Did they change their appearance? Did they shave their beard, cut their hair, change the color of their hair? The superintendent mentioned the clothes that this individual was wearing in the photo. Did they change the way they dress? Did their behavior change? Did their sleep pattern is different now? Did they start abusing drugs or alcohol whereas they would not have? Have they been anxious, nervous, irritable? Have they followed this case and what the media is putting out with a sense that is not normal? Have they had ongoing discussions regarding their whereabouts on that afternoon or thereafter? Please, if you have that information, call that into the tip line. We'll also be utilizing digital billboards, and in any way we can spread this message, we will. I'll just finalize my remarks just to say that to my law enforcement partners behind me, to the community at large, 9 days ago the FBI stood shoulder to shoulder with you. We're not going anywhere. We will be here until this case is solved, and I am confident this case will be solved. Thank you.
Police say they still have not been able to positively identify this suspect, his name or his whereabouts, his location, but they continue working over hundreds of leads. In fact, they say they estimate they receive about a dozen calls to their anonymous tip line each hour, and they're not just joined by local, state, county police, but the FBI. Today we learned that a team of nearly 24 FBI agents are also joining in the search to help them on any leads that they receive, going all around Delphi and surrounding communities, trying to find that suspect. Today at this press conference, you really got a feel for the emotional toll this is taking, not just on this community, but on the investigators. Well, they also released a stern message to that suspect.
As poor as this picture is, somebody knows. And if you're watching, we'll find you.
Police are confident they will be able to make an arrest quickly in this case. We also learned that as a part of the help by the FBI, they will be circulating his image on billboards, not just here locally, not just across the state of Indiana or even the Midwest, but they say all across the country as they intensify their efforts to try to find that suspect. We're also learning there is a cash reward. Right now, there's about $40,000 available in a cash reward for information leading to an arrest in this case. That's as community agencies, businesses, and people all across this area continue to support the fund to help bring an arrest in this case. Scott?
Investigators hope friends or relatives recognize that man's voice. They're also hoping they recognize a sudden change in appearance or behavior, typical of someone who may have committed a horrendous crime.
Did this individual travel unexpectedly? Did they change their appearance? Did they shave their beard, cut their hair, change the color of their hair? The superintendent mentioned the clothes that this individual was wearing in the photo. Did they change the way they dress? Did their behavior change? Did their sleep pattern is different now? Did they start abusing drugs or alcohol whereas they would not have? Have they been anxious, nervous, irritable? Have they followed this case and what the media is putting out with a sense that is not normal?
I don't believe I've ever seen a crowd this large of police and government officials committed to solving a single crime. We learned today the FBI alone has 40 agents working the investigation. That's with local and state police. The director of the FBI is getting a daily briefing on their progress. At the end of the briefing, police announced a reward, as much as $41,000, that brings them a tip, some sort of lead that connects them with their suspect and perhaps killer of these two girls. That is going to put some strength behind their continued, repeated, and passionate pleas for help from the public. 3 words police hope are enough for someone to recognize the voice of a relative, perhaps a friend.
Is it an associate? Or maybe that one guy that lives over at that one place that just kind of not right.
Police are also asking people to look past the fuzzy face of their murder suspect and focus on something perhaps familiar about his jacket, the way his shirt hangs out, or his right hand stuck into his jeans. They're still trying to determine if this was a chance meeting in the woods by someone they didn't know or if they're somehow acquainted with them. They also don't know who that voice belongs to. Does it belong to the person photographed on the bridge or perhaps someone else involved with the crime?
Retired homicide detective Robert Snow has years under his belt of investigating difficult murder cases. Although not involved, he has monitored the double murder investigation of Libby German and Abby Williams. Snow believes there is not only enough evidence to find the girl's attacker, but someone holds the key to unlock the murder mystery.
This is obviously not a local person, the person that killed him, because somebody would know him. Somebody in Delphi would recognize this person. So obviously you're going to have to go spread out.
Linguistics expert Dr. Carol Chasky says the audio reveals much about who the killer might be.
I would say that it's a general rural Midwestern accent somewhere in Indiana, Kentucky area.
Reporter Kayla Sullivan of WLFI TV.
Police say that the reason they released that is because somebody knows that that's my father's voice, that's my husband's voice. You know people who are close to you, you know the way they talk.
Is there any specific information that says the person is local or from far away? No. Could this be a stranger crime? That's a possibility. Could this be somebody that knew that the girls were going to be there at that time? That's a possibility. Nothing is off the table.
We need to get the murderer of Liberty German and Abigail Williams into custody sooner rather than later.
What do we know from the FBI? They say there's no evidence of this being a serial killing, no links to other unsolved murders. There is now a $41,000 reward, John and Andrea, for information in this case. $25,000 of those dollars came from the FBI.
Now, we've had several people reach out to us to ask how they can help with the reward. If you would like to donate to the reward fund, you can send a check to the Indiana State Police Alliance. The address is 1415 Shelby Street, Indianapolis 46203. And what you need to do is write Delphi Reward on the check memo line. Now, as we've said before, a number of departments, including the FBI, are investigating this case. They're being very careful to make sure they don't miss any evidence that could lead to the killer.
And since this particular investigation has so many moving parts, our crime beat reporter Steve Jefferson sat down today with an experienced homicide detective to help shed some light on what the investigators are going through right now. And he joins us live in studio. Steve?
Yeah, Anne-Marie and John, right now detectives in Delphi are trying to turn the corner on this case, and that means expanding their investigation outside of Delphi.
You got to think, why? Now, again, I'm not privy to the autopsy results or what other things. So you have to want to understand, why did this person do this? Obviously, the person had a reason for killing these two young girls.
We think that there's enough there that somebody would recognize that voice, and we want that person to call us.
And that recording is giving new momentum to a case that's already gaining national attention as police intensify their search for whoever is responsible.
And as police expand that search, they're also getting the word out tonight through these digital billboards. This one is on Fall Creek Parkway right near 38th Street. they hope is that drivers passing by will see these signs and think of something that could actually help.
This is an example of around-the-clock police work here in Delphi. We have Indiana State Police right here joining with Delphi Police. In addition to that, we've learned there are nearly 24 FBI agents who are here in Delphi around the clock as well, all working to try to pinpoint who that person is and to make a quick arrest in this case. This latest development comes as this community here in Delphi tries to move on and put this case behind them. Hundreds turned out for a vigil last night here in downtown Delphi at the courthouse to try to pray for the victims' families and pray for a quick arrest in this case and for that feeling of safety to return here in the small town.
This story is now getting national attention, and that's what police want. They believe the murderer or murderers could be anywhere this morning.
More than a week later, investigators don't appear any closer to finding out who murdered them. They are pleading with the public for any tips, even those that might seem insignificant. About 20 FBI agents are working with local and state police to solve the case. FBI Director James Comey himself has been briefed twice. German reportedly posted these photos on her Snapchat during their hike on February 13th. When the girls failed to return, the residents of this town of about 3,000 launched a search. There's a $41,000 reward in the case. $25,000 of that is coming from the FBI, but the police say they've been getting so many calls from people who want to contribute. They expect that number to go up.
The second floor here at the Delphi Municipal Building is ground zero for local, state, and federal law enforcement. It's where they're coordinating their information. And up until earlier today, it's where they were fielding all of those tips coming into the tip line. But we've just learned they are now rerouting those calls to Washington, D.C. and the FBI Major Case Contact Center. There, 150 people are monitoring the calls as opposed to the just 10 here. And police are hoping every tip they chase, every step they take brings them closer to catching a killer.
Yesterday, just minutes after Indiana news outlets broadcast the voice of one of the girl's killers. 1,900 tips lit up all 10 of the call center's phone lines.
The local media and now along with the national media has been outstanding in helping us get the message out for us to catch the murderers of Liberty German and Abigail Williams.
The attention garnered from network news and syndicated television shows alert not only civilians across the country, but also police departments, making it even more difficult for the killers of Abby and Libby to hide.
Over 100 local, state, and federal agents are working the case, including Carroll County Sheriff Tony Liggett, who's been with the department for 30 years. He's counting on the public to recognize the suspect soon.
We're hoping that someone out there will say, "Oh my goodness, that's a cousin, that's an uncle, that's the guy next door."
But despite the fact that Delphi is a small community of only 3,000 residents, no one has yet come forward.
It's surprising and obviously frustration as well.
Reward money in the case has reached $50,000 and climbing.
You've had some of the people who live here express fear.
Yes.
And I imagine they're hurting.
Yes.
What do you tell them?
The bottom line that I've been sharing all week is we will get this and we will find who is responsible.
If you look at the Delphi police station behind us, you can see the second floor windows are darkened there. They have been bright every night because it's been 24/7 an operation where they're getting calls in from people. That tip line was based right up there. It's dark now because it's been moved to Washington, D.C., but the search for answers continues here on the ground. He was working near the trail the day the girls died.
And had no idea I was not that far from it, so it's bothered me. Well, there's some things I passed along that I hope will help the investigation.
Things you witnessed?
Yes. You feel funny when you think that if I would have paid more attention to this or that, it has to be resolved.
Also tonight, the investigation headquarters now has a new home. It's moved out of the Delphi police station and into a building off of the town square. Now, everyone involved in this case has just one goal: find the person or persons who killed the two teenagers.
The reward to find whoever killed two Delphi teenagers has now grown. In fact, police are now offering $96,000 to find whoever killed Abby Williams and Libby German.
Hello. How you doing?
Good. How are you? State police roadblocks just outside of Delphi.
If you had a tip or information, to please give us a call as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I wish I did, I tell you. Not far from where the girls were found murdered, police questioned drivers.
Yeah, they said they didn't know, but it kind of looked familiar.
Handed out flyers and listened.
You guys do your job. Appreciate it very much. Yeah.
In the 2 weeks since Libby German and Abby Williams were reported missing, the investigation has grown to include more than 100 detectives from 20 different law enforcement agencies. 9,000 tips are keeping them busy.
You're interviewing suspects, going out, beating the bushes, so to speak, knocking on doors, following every valid and credible tip that we receive. You would know that there are things going on.
Police are working around the clock to find the person or persons who killed Libby German and Abby Williams. The reward fund continues to grow. This stack of donations arrived over the weekend.
We're here for the long haul.
A task force of 20 police agencies moved into a new, bigger, more permanent headquarters on Delphi's town square. 9,000 tips and more than 100 detectives working almost 2 weeks since the girls were found murdered haven't been able to identify a single suspect.
Well, I think anytime we receive information and we're able to even just cross a suspect off our list, we're making progress. But obviously it's not as far as we want it to be.
Monday night, new flyers going around Delphi, aimed partly at the Amish who would not see television news and social media posts, but might have seen something connected to the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German, not far from here. Monday, police checkpoint signs still up near 25. And it's the first full weekday of operation at the new task force headquarters. It moved from the police station down the street. Not enough room there for the 100-plus detectives from 20 agencies now working.
We hope it shows the people in the community that we're committed to solving the murder.
Between taking calls and emails, assigned officers to track down tips in the field, it's a 24-hour-a-day operation.
Officers want to solve a murder as quickly as possible, but as we moved into this new building, I see a renewed vigor between all investigators on this case. They want to get this solved.
When police look at the credible tips, it takes a long while to go out and check all of those, but they still want those tips from the public.
Volunteers man the front desk 24/7 while investigators sort through thousands of tips and conduct interviews in these rooms.
Here they actually have a polygraph chair set up in there.
Some of the questioning involves a lie detector machine. Still, despite running down 2,000 tips, investigators are no closer to figuring out who this man is. He's their prime suspect.
We don't have strong evidence that tells us where the suspect is from. And so the wider audience we can get that information to, the more likely we're going to get a tip.
How's it going? My name's Pat McAfee, retired punter for the Indianapolis Colts, Hoosier for life. And this is Superintendent of the State Police, Doug Carter. Doug, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
If you've paid attention to anything happening in the Hoosier State in the last couple of weeks, you understand the horrendous things that happened in Delphi, Indiana to Abby and Libby. For those that don't know, what happened, Doug?
They were brutally murdered 2 weeks ago yesterday. We need your help.
How many people have called in to help?
Over 9,000.
How many different police departments are helping?
25.
And now we are calling on you. This could be a nationwide search. We are at $103,000 for the cash reward for any tip finding to an arrest. Jim Irsay and I are going to make up that $97,000 to make this a $200,000 reward. If you can recognize this audio clip or this photo, please call this tip line right here below. Please share this as much as possible. From Doug and myself, we thank you. Hoosiers for life.
A $200,000 plus reward is a big deal. That is a lot of money. But in addition to money, today in Delphi, we found people giving more, giving of themselves, trying to give a hand to detectives looking for a break in this case.
I'm here to help in any way I can.
Kathy Shank returned home from vacation last night and signed up this morning to run the police headquarters reception desk. Tanya and Constance were here too. The sisters were up most of the night making lunch for investigators. More than 100 investigators from 25 law enforcement agencies are working day and night to identify this man. Detectives are grateful for the reward and all the attention the crime is getting, but they fear the rumors it's creating. When police questioned a man yesterday, his acquaintances flocked to social media, claiming he was arrested and accused of 2 murders.
That's a dangerous game to play. So far, that hasn't impeded our investigation, but common sense would dictate, why would you want to talk to us if you're going to be vilified?
From what we've seen, the meals, the cards, the posters, the notes are giving detectives something money can't buy, hope and encouragement as this murder investigation enters its 3rd week.
We just feel we're getting closer and closer.
In the months since the murders, investigators have received 13,000 tips, with more than 2,000 still to run down, and more coming in every day.
We're getting tips on local people. We're getting tips on people from all over. We've looked at investigations all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast. So we're not focusing on within 10 miles of Delphi. We're focusing throughout the whole country.
This just continues to gain traction here, not just here locally, but all across the nation. It now continues to soar, that reward does, now topping $210,000 for information leading to the arrest of that suspect.
Now by Pat McAfee and Indiana State Police Sergeant Tony Slocum. And Sergeant, let me begin with you. Just tell us, what's the latest on this investigation?
We have officers out shaking the bushes, so to speak, knocking on doors, investigating or speaking to suspects or anybody we believe might have evidentiary information to help us solve this case. That's why what Pat and Mr. Ursay have done is so important and what we're doing here in Delphi, Indiana.
And Pat, what is it about this specific case that made you want to get involved?
We thought if we raised the reward money, gave it to a $200,000 cash, and although you don't want to entice people with money to do the right thing, we assumed with the quality of the photo and the sound of the voice audio clip, the only people that are really going to know who this is somebody who's had a long relationship with this person, whether it's family or friends or something like that, and they're probably struggling with loyalty right now, but this is a horrible person. And we thought $200,000 is a life-changing amount of money, and hopefully we just spread the word across the country and find this monster, get him off the street, which would be good for America, good for Indiana, and just good for everybody. And I think this is going to be a great story about the world coming together to catch one monster.
Let's hope so.
We are now getting a closer look tonight at just how much police have already done to get justice for Libby and Abby. Our reporter, Rich Van Wyk, tonight shows us the community, how they're very committed to solving this case.
More times than often, a crime is solved by information from the public than all the technological advances that we have in law enforcement right now.
The message from a task force of 25 law enforcement agencies hasn't changed since day one.
So we need information, and that's what we're looking for.
This small community is replacing grief with determination. You can't miss the ribbons and posters. They're a constant reminder of the girls. It's not uncommon for small communities wrestling with such a tremendous tragedy to avoid, if not disdain, news people. But not here. Delphi is embracing the media. I have lost track of the number of people who wave, say hi, how you doing, offer to buy me a cup of coffee. Some seem concerned that the attention might fade away on this community before there's an arrest and justice for Libby and Abby. 3 weeks after the girls disappeared, posters, news conferences, a reward of nearly $200,000 doesn't appear to have put police any closer to finding their killer or killers. Unfortunately, investigators say the number of new tips coming in from the public has declined significantly. The fact that apparently no one with direct knowledge of the murders or who committed them, possibly this man, has called police and cashed in on the reward is surprising to some. But
within the last month, people have come together to pray for answers and to raise thousands of dollars so the families of these two girls can finally have peace.
I also spoke to Indiana State Police about the latest on this investigation. They say they are still sifting through thousands of tips, but they still need more to make sure that they put the right person behind bars for this horrific crime.
100 officers from 20 different departments helped catch up on a backlog of 2,400 leads. Detectives looking for the person or persons who killed Libby German and Abby Williams have been busy.
We've looked at over 300 people that we've looked at. We still have a few that we're still looking at hard.
After the teenagers were found murdered in a wooded area outside of Delphi, police received as many as 500 tips a day. 5 weeks later, that number has fallen to less than 100. Dozens of police departments that sent officers to help with the investigation have called them back home. Some people are going to look at this and say the importance of this investigation has diminished.
Well, they're going to be completely wrong. They're not going to stop looking, and we're not going to stop looking either. This is an important case. We want to put resolution to this and put a stop to this person or persons that are involved in this case.
The person of interest is still this man, photographed by one of the girls before they were abducted and murdered. Investigators are still hunting, and they say still hoping for the tip that puts an identity to the face in that all-familiar fuzzy photograph. Since searchers found the bodies of Libby German and Abby Williams in a wooded area just outside Delphi, hundreds of investigators have checked out more than 14,000 leads, questioned more than 300 potential suspects, and taken DNA samples from most of them.
It's went from a sprint race to a turtle race. We've actually started to slow down.
Now about 24 detectives are taking closer looks at some of those tips and leads and rechecking interviews to make sure nothing's been missed. The trail to the girl's killer 6 weeks later, investigators insist, is anything but cold.
We still have a lot of direction to go in this case. We've still got the information coming in. We still got information we've got to process, and we still got information we've got to chase down. That's the difference between a cold case and what we've got here. It's going to be a long while before we can say this is a cold case.
Police. They've checked more than 14,000 tips, interviewed more than 300 potential suspects, and took DNA samples from almost all of them. But they appear no closer to identifying their prime suspect than they were 6 weeks ago.
I was hoping we'd be done in a week or 2 weeks.
Even though days and nights of work and a $200,000+ reward haven't given detectives the tips they need, Sergeant Riley insists they remain optimistic.
Every day I walk in this door and I see the faces of these guys that are not giving up. They have the determination to keep working, to keep getting this case closer and closer to its final arrest.
Investigators are moving more slowly, rechecking the evidence and going back over tips and interviews for anything that might have been missed. People who live and work in Delphi appear as confident and committed as police, certain, they say, that there will be justice for Libby and Abby.
It is now 8 weeks since two teenagers disappeared while on a hike in Delphi. Searchers found the bodies of Abby Williams and Libby German near the bridge in a well-known hiking area. Police have not made an arrest in the case yet, but they believe the killer is the man in this fuzzy picture. They say Libby took this picture shortly before she died. Police also found a recording of the man's voice on her phone. Now, if this jogs your memory at all, you can call the tip line at the number on your screen. It's 844-459-5786.